Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
I am eternal, child. I am the eater of worlds and of children.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Here's Johnny.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Welcome everyone to Season 2 of the Gruesome Task podcast. I am here today right before Halloween. My name is Deonte and I am here with my host,
Jose. It's Season 2. I am so excited. Halloween's right around the corner. Let's get this new season going. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yep, and if you did not see it, we have posted multiple times on our social media. Season 2, we're coming back with a vengeance. This is all heavy hitters, all killer, no filler. We're hitting you with the classics, the things you know, the things you love, and the things that if you haven't seen in a long time, you'll be brought back and you'll be scared once again.
Yep, and we're bringing this first episode. It's going to be John Carpenter's Halloween. I'm so excited for this one. This is for sure in my top 5 horror films of all time, so I'm so ready for it.
Yes, this is up there as one of my favorite horror films of all time as well. And what a better way to start the season. We're dropping it. Today is October 30th. Halloween is tomorrow. We hope that you're all safe. We know a lot's going on in the world. So whatever you're doing, whether you're going to go trick-or-treating, you're going to spend time with your family, loved ones, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, please do it safely. And put on the podcast. Maybe you want to listen to it again. You listen to it on the 30th. Put it on the 31st. Show your friends, whoever you're hanging out with. Let them know that we got a great season up ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Foremost, be safe about things. You know, there's a whole pandemic going on. Halloween is a big holiday, and I'm excited just as the next person. But I know I'm gonna be staying safe, social distancing, and not putting others at harm. But other than that, yeah, listen to the podcast. Go show everybody. Show your friends, your family, everybody who loves horror as much as we do. And I know there are more than just these horror fanatics like me and Deonte that love Halloween as well. I mean, who doesn't love this movie?
Oh yeah, everybody knows it. And we're going to get into it. But first, if you're not following us on social media, please do so. We have our Instagram, that is at Gruesome Task Podcast. On Twitter, it is at The Gruesome Task. For myself, on Twitter, at _under the knife. And on Instagram, at xdeontems.
You can find me on Instagram at j.a.gallegos. And on Twitter, it's Spirited Jose. Come reach out to us. We're very active on the social medias.
Yep. So first, if you want to go ahead, what plugs do we have for the people, Jose?
Let's start off Spirit Halloween. You can go to our websites and our social medias, and we're excited to be partnering with them as well as FYE. FYE, you can go and find the links. If you go through our links and you go and search up Halloween 1978, you go and find there, and part of those proceeds will help us and help build this podcast. We're excited to be working with both and excited to bring you guys these opportunities as well.
Yep, go check out all of the affiliate links. Besides that, we also have our t-shirts. If you're listening to this on the 30th, you have one more day to purchase your very own Gruesome Task t-shirt. We have 2 different designs for you up over at the Hollow Ground distro. The link is pretty much everywhere. You can find it on our Twitter, on our Instagram, through Facebook, as well as where else can they find it? Or through our personal stuff as well. We're tweeting it out, so go check that out. It's pretty much Hollow. We have direct links, but if you don't use the direct link and you just go to hollowground.bigcartel.com, click the little menu button at the top right, and you'll end up seeing it'll be listed as the Gruesome Task. We have both t-shirts available in sizes extra small through triple XL. We are getting these t-shirts made locally here in Texas. I believe the maker of those shirts is in Austin, and when we do have those, I will make sure to give them a shout out as well. And they will be going in production on November 1st, so right after they get taken off of the website. If you're not able to order them by October 31st, maybe, bills came up, maybe you were buying some horror Blu-rays, prepping for Halloween, hit us up. We can try and make things work out. Just give us a DM and we'll work with our people making the shirts.
Yeah, we'll definitely work with people. We want you guys to have these as much as we do. Not just for us, and we want you guys to be able to support the Black and Horror series that we had going on, the Night of the Living Dead movie as well. These shirts mean a lot to us, and we're just very, very glad that you're willing to support us in any way. And if you can't necessarily get these t-shirts, we'll work with you in some way. Just reach out to us.
Yep. And without that, did you have anything else you wanted to plug, Mr. Jose?
Not at the moment. Just this new series, All Killer No Filler. We're ready to go. We got so many great movies lined up for you, and we can't wait to share all of our reviews with you.
Then you know what? Let's stop piddle paddling around. Let's get to it. 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween. Where are we touching first?
I want to continue giving those little facts, about when it was released and so forth. So I'm going to get into that right now. This movie, John Carpenter's Halloween, was released October 27th, 1978. Its runtime of 91 minutes, directed by John Carpenter. It was written by Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The producer was Deborah Hill herself, and it went through the company Compass International Pictures, which was actually started during the production of this film by the executive producer Irwin Yablans, which I thought was pretty interesting because they were shopping this film to other distributors and nobody wanted to do it. So this executive producer, who was already working on this film, just started his own company and said, I'm going to put this out there. This needs to be put out there like that. So the budget then comes in at $325,000. But the gross, it grossed so much compared to that small budget. $47,160,000. This movie surpassed anybody's expectations, and I mean, obviously, like you can see that that income coming in, and it speaks for itself. It really does.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it took off more than I'm pretty sure most people have thought, and I mean that's what led to the various sequels that we got, the remakes, and the reboot that we have going on now. And I mean, that one was super successful as well. I'm sure at some point we'll get to it, and I mean, based on the success of that one too, we've already got 2 sequels that have already been announced. So the Halloween, just based off that initial 1978 Halloween movie, it spawned a literal beast.
Oh yeah, the legacy that this movie started is, I mean, it can be comparable. You got Friday the 13th and so forth, but I mean, it's just such that this classic of a movie that it had to have kept going. People wanted more. People wanted more Michael Myers.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the cast, Jose?
The cast includes Donald Pleasance, who plays Loomis. Jamie Lee Curtis plays Laurie. Nancy Keys plays Annie. PJ Souls plays Linda. Charles Cyphers plays Sheriff Brackett. Kyle Richards plays Lindsay. Brian Andrews plays Timmy. John Michael Graham plays Bob. And then we got Nick Castle, who plays most of Michael Myers when he's walking around. Tony Moran is actually the face when the mask is put off Michael Myers. And then Will Sapp is the 6-year-old version of Michael Myers. We've got 8 nominations and 6 wins as far as awards for this film. The big one, it was actually it won Online Film and Television Associates. It was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then one thing that stood out to me is it actually lost the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films for Best Horror Film that year. And it actually lost to The Wicker Man. I haven't seen that film, but I've heard some pretty interesting things about it. So, I mean, I have to give it a watch and see if it actually deserved that one over Halloween.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that movie, so I'm intrigued to watch it, especially if it was better than an all-time classic. So, I do have, in my opinion, I guess, just because it's local, someone that is very often forgot about in this movie because she was only in there for literal less than a minute. But Michael's sister, Judith Myers, who he killed, his first ever confirmed kill, the actress was Sandy Johnson, and she was born right here in San Antonio, Texas.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yep, she actually was not an actress initially. She was a Playboy model, and she did her modeling thing, and at the age of 24 decided to go into acting, and her first ever film was Halloween.
Interesting. Did she do anything afterwards?
She was in, so I guess I should take it back. So her technically it's kind of like her first film was Halloween. She was in two other movies that came out the same year, so I'm assuming they were all filmed around the same time, which was Surfer Girls and Jokes My Folks Never Told Me. Those all three came out in 1978. Afterwards, she was in a film called HOTS in 79, Gas Pump Girls in 79, and then that was it for her acting. She was only in those roles, and I believe afterwards she just kind of was done with after that. I don't see anything else. There's not too much information. I don't see where she went back to do any type of like Playboy shoots or anything either. And since the only other thing that she pretty much did was she had it was just like a footage from the original Halloween that was in the reboot in 2018, and that was the last, I guess, the most recent time that we saw her. But it was like a flashback, you know.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. From San Antonio, that's small world. Small world.
You know why she stopped? It's because she got that Halloween check and she realized she was Gucci. She don't got to do nothing for the rest of her life.
Dude, I have the checks that went out, the amounts that went to the actors and actresses, so I highly doubt she got a pretty decent check there.
No, but see, you're not thinking long term. You're not thinking about royalties, my friend.
But most of these people don't get the royalties.
Come on, they have to get some type of royalties.
I don't think so. The actors and actresses are paid like a certain amount. They get a check, and
come on, you're telling me that there's not. I mean, maybe their contracts are different, but see, I always thought when it comes to an actor or actress, if what I don't want to say necessarily merchandise, but re-releases of the film that are sold via VHS through DVD, through Blu-ray, now through 4K, TV contracts that they may sign so that way the film's able to be shown through HBO or AMC. I always thought that the actors and actresses got some type of cut of that. And I guess the reason I always thought that is because I know it's like that in wrestling, and you hear a lot of wrestlers talk about where they wrestled, they left a company, let's just say WWE, for example, but because whenever WWE uses that wrestler in a documentary that they produce or a DVD or a Blu-ray or anything like that, every quarter or every 6 months, they have to cut that wrestler a royalty check, regardless of how big a role they played for that documentary or whatever it is, they get a royalty check. So I always thought it was the same for actors and actresses, because I feel like there's a lot of movies where they were pretty big, the actor had that huge one role, and then you never really saw them in much again. And I always just assume like they're making that big money from that one movie. They're getting the Breakfast Club check, they're getting the Halloween check, they're getting the, I don't know what else was a big movie, the Home Alone check. I just always assume that. Maybe I'm wrong.
You might be right. I would definitely say that I don't know too much about it to actually tell you whether you're right or wrong, but I always, just thought they were just paid the check, and I definitely could be wrong. I didn't know that even in the wrestling world that when things were remade and stuff like that. And that definitely sounds correct when you transfer that over to like movies and TV shows. So I would honestly say that you're closer than I am. That's what my final opinion on this is, for sure.
We'll have to do some additional research, and we could talk about it next week on the podcast. Or if one of you all out there know, I know we got some just movie nerds out there, maybe an actor or actress is out there listening. Let us know how it works, because we're just looking at it from the outside.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to be as correct as we can too. I don't want to give false information. That's why, I admit that I was probably wrong. But anyways, I did want to speak on that budget, by the way. So as I mentioned before, it only had a budget of $325,000. It was originally at $300,000, but that extra $25,000 came, and that was used to pay Donald Pleasance, who played Loomis. And I thought that was, really interesting that they added that extra money just for this actor. And then reading more upon it, he wasn't even their first choice. There was 2 others ahead of him who both passed on the opportunity, and then he only took it because his daughter really enjoyed Carpenter's music. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting that he ended up getting a good chunk of that. And then Jamie Lee Curtis was only paid $8,000 of that.
That's crazy. I know that this was in 78, so 8,000 is a lot different. But to think that you were given 8,000 to be in this movie, and now you're forever going to be remembered, it's insane.
She's a horror legend, a horror icon. She's known by almost everybody who's seen, a horror film. And speaking on that budget, half of it was actually put towards the cameras that were used for this film. They were the newest Panavision cameras, and Carpenter wanted this to have a 2.35 to 1 ratio when it came to the screen size. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting too, that he spent so much of that budget just for it to look the way it did, and really kind of half-assed the rest of the budget when it came to the actors. And the clothes for every single actor on set was their own clothes. Jamie Lee Curtis actually came out and said that she spent less than $100 on the budget for her character. And just thinking about going through this and going through that very small budget, very small film, you're just trying to act in some small movie that you didn't even think was going to get somewhere, and now you're known as a horror icon, and for something so small.
Yeah, it's wild. And I'm glad that they did put most of the budget to the cameras, because the movie, I mean, of course I don't know the technical side of things, but just from a viewer perspective, it's wonderfully shot. It looks great. All the angles are great. Yeah, everything is pretty, dang perfect about it. So
yeah, the shots make it that much greater of a horror film. I'm gonna bring up a shot right here. It's that one where Michael's in the yard and Laurie's looking at him through the window. I mean, that shot is one of the greatest shots, ever. Not just in horror. And I was going through different shots of this film as well, and it's so hard to pick my favorite one, because they're all so great. There's certain parts of this movie that have affected horror films that came after it for so many years to come, and it's so crazy that these 2 people who wrote this film are held at the top of the horror genre for forever.
And since you brought up a shot, I'll go ahead and bring up something I was gonna talk about a little bit later. The initial scene in the film of Michael killing his sister, at least as far as I know, it's one of probably the first horror movies that did a first person angle. I mean, you're basically Michael, and I think it's how he puts on the mask too, and your view or whatever you want to call it, it looks as if you're wearing the mask. I mean, everything about that was so perfect. And obviously the horror or the gore hadn't come yet, like we see in some of the modern Halloween movies, where you're not really getting so much of that of getting all the blood and guts of when he's stabbing his Judith. But just the fact that it was in first person was like so different. And if you really think about putting yourself in 1978, I guarantee you that those people watching that in the movie theaters were thinking that was crazy.
Yeah, this, like I said, it's so hard to pick up, but that was definitely one of my favorite scenes as well. It's to be able to start a movie like that and not realizing who you necessarily are. If you are the one actually watching this couple downstairs and then you're walking upstairs, I mean, you don't know who you are, and then you just hear Michael from the sister, and then you figure out it's this little kid who just had killed his sister. It's, that's definitely unexpected when you put it into that 70s perspective.
Mm-hmm. And then the shot of him as well when he comes downstairs and his parents come home, and the camera cuts and we actually see Michael's face for the first time, and he's, he looks like just an innocent, terrified little kid. And obviously in your mind you're like, hey, this is a bad guy, right? He just killed his sister. But I think instinctively as humans, we see like a little kid, cute little kid. He looks innocent. We kind of feel sorry for him in a way. You kind of want to know what's his backstory, what brought him like this, why did he decide to kill his sister. And so that he's bad, but you're not saying at that point like he's evil. And so I just like that too. So just random stuff.
Yeah, and when researching more about the movie, I actually ended up finding out that the motive behind this film was when John Carpenter in college went to go tour a psychiatric hospital, and he met a kid, and he said that the kid looked at him with the most evil and terrifying look he'd ever seen, and it's ended up spawning this, and that little Michael Myers came from that, like an actual person, and sparked this crazy psycho murder.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It blows my mind that how deep this film can go and how many years John Carpenter has put and talked about this even afterwards. I love that it was so big enough that we can actually learn more about him and why he made this and what really goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I wanted to mention, I've got my notes up here, and for those that are tuning into season 2, that listen to the podcast for season 1, the new format is we're me and Jose, we're no longer going scene by scene for these movies. Our new format is we're just having a conversation. You're a fly on the wall. You're listening to the conversation, and we're just going back and forth of different things we liked about the film, maybe something that stood out, a random fun fact, anything about it, just our commentary. So that's why you won't hear us go scene by scene. Now, continuing with that, I wanted to mention, and I don't know if this is just an older thing, but is it just me, or do all the teenage girls in the movie, don't they just look old as hell?
Yes, actually. So I thought the same thing, and I ended up finding out that Jamie Lee Curtis is the only teen in this movie that is supposed to be a teenager. Everyone else is in their 20s and older.
Yeah, I remember when I was looking at the ages at the time, it was Linda's character, which is played by Pamela Soul. She was like 28.
28?
Yeah, because she was born in 1950, so she was 28 when that ended up occurring, and I just thought that was so wild. Like, you have a 20, and I know we see that today in modern films, right? Like, or even you see an actor that's 24 and they're playing a 15-year-old on Disney Channel or something. It's still common, but I feel like it's because they choose actors and actresses that have baby faces, or they just don't appear like they've matured yet. But all the actresses in this, I feel like everyone besides man, what was her character's name? I'm got them all here. Was it Nancy? No, who was it? Who was the friend that was it Annie? Yeah, it was Annie. Okay. So Annie was the only one that I felt like passed for me as a high schooler. Like I could swear that even though Lori is like Jamie Lee Curtis is around that age, kind of felt like she had a little bit of the like wrinkles going around, like where the around like how you get the wrinkles that go from your nose down all the way to like your side of your mouth. I don't know if you Jose could kind of see me. They go like this, like I feel like she had those wrinkles going on, and we're no diss. You know, I'm not talking bad about the way they look, but it's just they did not look like high schoolers. So I feel like if I was watching the movie in '78 or in 2020, it's like they don't really look like they're 17 or 18.
No, I definitely agree. I think specifically Bob, like when you refer to him, this guy looks like he's in his senior year of college, you know? Like he's got the glasses on, the hair, and he looks like he's about to go ready and work in the oil fields or something.
Exactly. So I just thought that was like a note, but that's something that I feel like I notice a lot of times on movies. I pay attention to the way people look, and I'm like, you don't look like you're that age. You don't look like you're that age. But yeah, that was weird. Also, random thing I noticed in a lot of movies that you watch from the 70s and even the 80s, think about how common babysitting was. I feel like now nobody babysits because people just assume everyone's weirdos.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that comes up a lot in not necessarily horror, but in 70s and 80s movies. I don't I don't see anywhere where anyone's like publicly looking for a babysitter or just random people and these teenagers, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's because you find more and more, not necessarily real life stories, but horror films as well, where they're just, babysitters are the ones being abducted and, breaking into, and it just so happens that the parents are out that it happens that night.
But it's wild too because we're in a modern time where we do Uber and we do Lyft, so we're getting in a stranger's car and allowing them to take us wherever we, hey, I want to go hit up Wendy's to get a fofofo, and you got like a stranger taking you there because you decided to Uber it or take a Lyft there, and that stranger could be like, nah, bro, we're not getting no fofofos. I'm not gonna take you to get no food. I'm gonna take you to this cliff and I'm gonna like hack your body up and throw you off the cliff. Like, but because we're more trusting in a way. I mean, think about with the internet, right? We're on the internet and we're so open to just, I'm gonna talk to this stranger and hey, they said they want to hang out tomorrow. I'm gonna go hang out with them. But yet you don't see babysitters or someone putting out a flyer in their neighborhood saying, I need a babysitter for my 6-year-old. So I thought that was pretty interesting because all like the girls in this movie that were the teenagers were all babysitting.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to know exactly where the parents all went to, at what time necessarily frame that all this had happened. Where were the parents? Were they at some party? Were they at their office parties or something? How late could it have been for the babysitters and the kids to still be up? But if it was Halloween night, all the trick-or-treaters are already gone. So it's crazy, like just thinking more about it.
Yeah, and that's another thing is usually parents take the kids out trick-or-treating. Why did the parents not take the kids out trick-or-treating? There's no sign of adult life besides Annie's father, who's the sheriff. So
Yeah, and where was he? Like, and another thing that bugged me is when the cop had finally like broken down and asked Loomis, like, should we be on high alert? Like, should we put out the word? Loomis is like, nah, don't worry about it. Don't alarm anybody, but just be, on the lookout. They don't know what they're looking out for. He didn't explain anything to anybody.
Well, I think it's because Loomis is he feels like Michael is his problem, right? Like him They went there and he stole their car, and he's on the loose. Only Loomis knows what Michael is capable of, even whatever it is, 16 years later after the initial murder of Judith. So I feel like it's one of those things where maybe he felt like, oh, I don't want to alarm, I don't want the sheriff to alarm the public because one, it's Halloween and a lot of people are going to be out. And if they're on this high alert for this potential serial killer, they don't want there to be the signs everywhere and for police to be everywhere, because he probably figured Michael's capable of killing more people. That could have resulted in more deaths than there was. And I feel like Loomis also had a satisfaction of him wanting to be the one to stop Michael.
Okay, I could definitely see that. I feel Loomis would be possessive because he felt like he was responsible for that, and he was trying to get Michael in like a more, high security prison space for him to be more secure. But I don't know, man. It's just a lot of this could have been prevented if people would have just believed everybody. Just like, oh, like I saw someone behind the bushes. Oh, I believe you. Let's go walk together and check it out. Or Lori believing the little Timmy. Just I saw the boogeyman. Oh, really? Let's lock all the doors and stay inside. Those things like that. But you're just in a
Yes. Thank you for bringing this up, because before Lori goes to babysit Tommy Doyle, before she goes to babysit him, she sees Michael outside when she's at school. She sees Michael in the car when they pass, and Annie makes the comment, and Michael stops the car. She sees Michael around the bushes. She sees this character 3 times, and she's a little freaked out, but she tells herself that she shouldn't be freaked out. So if you've seen this weird man in 3 different locations in one day, it's obvious that someone's following you or someone's up to something. And when Tommy says he saw the boogeyman outside, you should immediately click back and think, well, you know what, Tommy? You're right. There probably is something outside, because I saw this person 3 times in my day that it looked like they were following me. We should lock the doors. We should call the police. We should go hide and lock ourselves in the closet. Do something. Like, she just went about her day and was like, there's no such thing as the boogeyman. Let me call Annie so we can get together. Like, oh my goodness. Frustrating.
It's so frustrating, especially just like watching movies and using my own common sense. But I just have to think, like, what would I do in those situations myself? And I probably would be the same way, especially if I were living in that neighborhood at that time, in that, without any worries. It wasn't very common for a killer to just be roaming about or even be present. Like, throughout the story, he's just a ghost to everybody. Like, oh, there's just rumors. It's a myth. It's a scary old legend that this little boy killed somebody at this house one time. Now it's all just abandoned, and nobody necessarily knows. It's just like tall tales passed down from generations, and nobody is cautious at all. And it's crazy that times have really changed, where everyone is cautious now. Everyone has cameras outside their homes and, checking it constantly, making sure their kids are okay and everything. It's completely different times, and how things can just happen like that. How people and psycho people who end up being killers just end up changing our ways of life, and how we're adapting to prevent those scary situations.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, my family talks about it a lot. Is like, back in the day, there was, people didn't lock their doors. People just left their doors wide open, right? You look at shows and stuff too, and movies from back in the day, and people just walk right in, family, friends, and there's not this, knock on the door, hey, can I come in? None of that. And nowadays, you don't lock your door, you're a fool.
Yeah, exactly. I got yelled at. I was just walking, from my car to my door to grab something from inside and then go back, and like, you getting yelled at because I didn't lock my car, for a split second. It's crazy. It's how paranoid everybody is now. But anyways, back to the movie. One thing I want to stress and praise so greatly is the soundtrack, the music, the score, the little noises that you hear. It's fantastic. John Carpenter wrote all of this in, I believe it was 2 days. I read everything for it. And that blows my mind how great this guy's mind is. And he could just finish this film. And I believe he wrote it like from start to finish in 2 weeks or something. Um, it's crazy. And it's, this Michael Myers theme is just gonna be played for so long, and all these movies are gonna keep getting remade, and we're always gonna hear, every my spine, I get those goosebumps every time that song comes on, and it just reminds me of being a child watching this for the first time and being so scared, of this movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's one of the best ever. And I mean, like you said, it's choosing to play that theme song every single time that Michael appears, or it set the tone early on where the viewer knows as well. Like if we don't see Michael in the shot, but the theme is played, you know that he's around or he's about to show up or something related to Michael is about to happen. And I just think that's so perfect. And the way that the film was shot and edited too is where you hear the theme song, oh, Michael's about to show up, but you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know necessarily when a character's going to see him. And so it's fantastic. I would love to pick that up sometime on a physical format, which does bring me into, for those people that are collectors like myself, it's not very easy getting this, because doing a little research on Discogs, it looks like that there was a CD copy for the 20th anniversary that was released in 1998, and it is not cheap. The average price of it is $19, and that is not a brand new price. That is a used price, but because more likely due to people just stocking up on Halloween horror soundtracks, the cheapest one right now via Discogs is 49 of them things. If you want the vinyl, which is the one I would prefer, Mondo put that out. We're all familiar with Mondo. They had 3 different variants. They all vary in price. There was 2 different orange variants, and then there was the black, and it was on 180 grams. So I know it sounds beautiful, but the cheapest price right now is about $89. There was some sold listings of the orange variant for upwards of 180. So yeah, it's not too easy to get. Go ahead and hit up your Spotify, baby.
Yeah, definitely. I can't necessarily muster up the courage to spend money on something like that. Even if, for something great like this, the resellers for these things, I know, like box sets for Halloween, the whole series and stuff, they sell out like crazy and then get resold for hundreds of dollars. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, and it's, and like running the music distro, and like I guess getting to know a couple people that are around like the record labels, is it's very, I just don't understand why for these horror soundtracks they don't do what a lot of labels do for albums, where yes, you have your variant colors, but on standard black vinyl there should always be a press that's in stock. There should always be a press, because the standard black vinyl is going to be your cheapest option. You don't have to add anything special with it. You could do just plain Jane black vinyl, basic insert. You don't have to do shiny gatefold on the jacket. None of that stuff. Just basic vinyl press. $20, always in stock. Do a CD version, sell it for $10 to $12, always in stock, super basic. And then you could drop your variants that are the orange marbled smoke vinyl that comes with a limited edition poster that was made by this famous artist and all this stuff. And you could do that once every 3 to 5 years, because it's going to sell out, because Halloween and a lot of these other horror films are super popular. But keep your common black vinyl basic CD in stock for people that just want it, because people are always going to be looking for that. You're going to get constant sales throughout the year.
Oh yeah, only people who are as smart as you, Deonte, we would be in a much happier world.
let me someone go ahead and donate to the PayPal, and I can go ahead and buy the rights for the score, and that way we can get it pressed on vinyl.
There we
I'll
go.
keep it in
Yeah.
stock.
Just fund us, and we'll buy all the rights to all the greatest stuff, and we won't gatekeep it like these big studios and stuff.
I'm hoping you can get me a Death by Temptation vinyl, please.
Dude, there's a CD out there, right?
I believe so, probably.
I get you the CD. I ain't about to spend an arm of my life for Death by Temptation vinyl.
Going now, I wanted to bring this up. Is that, and I feel like we might spend a little bit of time on this, is that why is it that, or I guess I should word it like this. As much as Halloween is great, as much as I love this movie, it is my second favorite horror movie of all time. Halloween was also bad for horror movies.
Go into detail about that. What do you mean by that?
Because this came out at a time where the slasher genre was not as popular, and there wasn't as much movies that were around that were slashers. Like the big one, and we talked about a little bit before we recorded, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there was maybe probably 2 or 3 others that were considered actual slashers, and people viewed Halloween as the standard, as pretty much, if you're going to make a slasher film, we got to take what Halloween did and we just got to tweak a couple things and then we'll come out with it, right? You need a great character, someone that's going to stand out, something that people are going to be scared of, something that we can put on posters, we could put on t-shirts. You get that. Then after you got your slasher, we need a script. We're more than likely going to use some teenagers, so they're going to be super oblivious. They're just not going to realize things are happening. They're going to think that what they're seeing, they're really not seeing. And then the slasher's going to kill them. And then maybe they get their upper hand on the slasher. They stab them. They shoot them with the gun. They fall from a balcony. Your modern person knows that serial killer, that slasher's not dead, but in the movies, the common trope, it's always the same, and it started in Halloween, and we saw it going forward. It's been in every slasher since. Is a person thinks they're safe, they think they've killed the slasher, and then what happens? The slasher gets up and kills them, or the slasher gets up and attacks them, and they're hurt, or whatever it is. They obviously, that the slasher's not going to die because you need sequels or you need to continue the movie. But why is it that we have to see in every film over the past 42 years since Halloween, it's a slasher film, that we have to have the stupid characters that don't have common sense and that think that they killed someone by sticking a small needle in their neck? I could in Halloween, when Laurie does that, I could have took that needle to the neck and I wouldn't even have fallen. And I understand I'm built different, but still, like, it's so dumb. She literally goes upstairs and she tells Tommy and she tells Lindsay, she tells him, I killed the boogeyman. And Michael's, he's coming right up the stairs. Like, you didn't kill him just doing the little poke in the neck with the little needle. Like, it's like getting a flu shot, bro. Like, you didn't kill him. I mean, and that's the thing that frustrates me, is because, as we've seen in some of the movies we reviewed in season 1, as we've seen in just movies that we've watched on our own since we've been alive, those same common tropes that are in Halloween are still being used to this day. And I feel like maybe it's just because I have a lot of common sense and I feel like I want horror movies to be as realistic as possible, that I want my characters to use that common sense, but they never do. I'm finished.
Yeah, I can agree. I can do, but I mean, I think that's what makes a good slasher or a decent slasher that much more interesting, is that these people don't necessarily have that common sense, so you kind of root for them to die. You're like, oh, you're kind of dumb. Let's see how you're gonna die. I think that's what makes it fun for me. I mean, of course, yeah, you see it over and over, and I definitely agree. It's so tiring seeing that same stuff being used today instead of something original, something different. I feel like the more realistic horror is on the rise because we haven't seen too much of that. We've seen these dumb characters get killed over and over and over, and end up falling in love more with a Michael Myers person instead of necessarily the character. Of course, everybody loves Laurie because she's strong, she's independent, she's the person who has outlived Michael Myers, and you know that's great, that's wonderful. But we need something other than that in the horror, and I definitely agree. I praise this Halloween movie to the highest standard because it sparked this generation of slasher. It made and paved the way for other great films to come after it. But you know, we don't need the remake of it. We don't need another film of it because this one already exists. We already have something this great. We don't need other things to try to top it or be it. It's frustrating. I agree. It's definitely frustrating seeing the same things over and over.
Yeah, like I think for my people that are sports heads, it's very the common comparison is like with the NBA. We Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors literally changed the NBA, right? He was this amazing 3-point shooter. They had Klay Thompson, who was an amazing 3-point shooter. They had role players that were very solid 3-point shooters. But in reality, while they were so great, like Halloween, they ruined the NBA because other teams realized that, hey, we need to shoot threes. We got to shoot threes. They eliminated the center position for the most part. So now if you're an old school center and you're down on the basket, most teams don't want you. Andre Drummond is one of the best big men we've seen in 20 years, but he's not as popular and not as sought after because of the fact that he stays under the basket and he's not going to shoot a 3-pointer like an Anthony Davis or Karl Anthony Towns or whoever, Joel Embiid. And so in it, comparing like that, you had greatness happen, but it ultimately ruined what came after. Now no one plays defense because everyone wants to get down and shoot a three. Same thing with Halloween. It was an amazing horror film, something like we really, for the most part, hadn't really seen yet. But in a way, it kind of hurt what came after because it became the standard, people had to copy it.
Yeah, and it's just the industry, like something blows up. It's not necessarily with sports or movies. It's just everywhere. Like, emojis blew up out of nowhere. They got their own movie. They got their own merchandise. They got everything, And then you got the knockoffs. You got, the Android stuff. You got the dollar stuff. You got everything just following, trying to build on that hype. It's just the industry. That's really all it is. And it's sad to say that it's gonna be like that forever. It's gonna be the next big thing that's gonna come. There's gonna be a bunch of things that try to reap those benefits off of it and not necessarily hit that mark. And if there was a different way to go about things, where we would get more original stuff, more creative things instead of just the same old thing, then I feel like there would not be as many people going to the theaters to see this. A lot of people find comfort in the same old thing. So I know there are those slasher heads where they can only necessarily watch like slasher films and enjoy them, and nothing else really appeals to them. So it's just different sides of the different spectrums, and I could see it from all different sides. Being frustrated with it, seeing those same things, but then again, like finding a little bit of comfort when I find, a pretty good slasher film nowadays being made. It's back and forth, and it's hard to say like I hate this or I love this, but I'm just kind of in between, kind of wanting more, not necessarily, something bad, but something good. I want more. I want more of the good, and it's hard to find that.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people are starting to come around to horror movies that are kind of similar to Hereditary, where it's obviously not a slasher, but it's kind of a psychological type of horror film, and people are appreciating that because it takes a little bit more thought. It takes a little bit of better writing to really be able to put out something like that and really perfect it and do it well. Opposed to your slasher, you can go back to the various ones of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all this stuff where, like we mentioned, hey, I got a guy. He's a bad man or bad woman, and he has this crazy story, right? Like he was burned in a fire at youth, but he survived, and it was his mom who did it. And the mom hasn't been seen, but now he tracked down the mom, so he's going on a killing spree because he's angry. But the mom, she has a new son, and the son's a teenager, and he's got a bunch of friends, so he's gonna try and track down and kill all the friends. I just wrote you a horror movie in 30 seconds, you know? So, but yeah, I know we're blabbering about it, but it's just something that I think about a lot. And after not really watching the original Halloween for quite some time, it really made me think about that. Because all the times when I'd watched it before, it was just, hey, I love this movie, I'm just watching it to watch. Opposed to this time, I really tried to dissect and think about some of those things and the kind of the evolution that never really came for slashers.
Yeah, and it just makes me think as well, like being able to show somebody this nowadays who hadn't seen it before and showing it to them for the first time and kind of getting their perspective. Like I've seen this movie so many times for so many years at a very young age, and someone who's my age now watching this for the first time, being bored of it, within the first 30 minutes or so, it makes me think like why don't people see it? And it's that different time period is having that exhaustion of those slasher films. And even if you hadn't seen Halloween as your first slasher film, falling in love with it like most people have, the new generation that's growing up now, like our future kids and their future kids, generations to come, are gonna look at Halloween after seeing all these other great slasher films that they think are great, and going back to this older film and seeing those cheesy tropes and seeing those cheesy things, and not being scared by a man just following a girl around because that's their day to day. That's normal to them. It's not scary anymore, and that's what I like to think about too. I tried to look at it and rewatch it. When researching for this podcast episode, I rewatched it a few times, and I tried to look at it as a first-time viewer. I tried to look at it as a kid when I was growing up. I try to look at it as a kid now, like trying to look at it as an adult now. Those different stages in life, and each time I got a different perspective. There's different things that can go wrong in somebody's head when looking at this movie and not being able to fall in love with it. And it's because of those tropes. It's because of that longevity and the exhaustion of the slasher.
Yep. And I don't know, I still really enjoy slasher films, even with and I know you do as well, with everything that we mentioned. I still like them a lot. I understand the tropes. I wish that they didn't do them, but it is what it is when it comes to that. I had three other things that I did want to point out to you today. The first one is, what did you think about the ghost scene where Michael puts on the little ghost outfit to end up killing when she shows up in the bedroom and pretending to be Bob after he had just killed Bob? That was something that it was kind of, I obviously liked the scene, but it was interesting to see them kind of, in a way, have a little playfulness that Michael showed that he didn't really show at any other point in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was very interesting. I think it gave the film a little of that comedic relief, after being so serious. And to see him too, like a different way of killing, for him not necessarily just going around stabbing everybody. It's him being creative and him wanting to play around with his victims and show that he's still partly like human. He has that sense of humor, but not necessarily a good sense of humor. Pretty messed up way of thinking, but him going with that Halloween theme, putting on that ghost thing, and you're tricking her into believing that it's Bob. I thought it was really funny. It's very funny to laugh about now, because these teens are so naive. They don't think about what's going on. They just believe, and seeing her get upset so easily because Bob doesn't want to communicate with her or talk to her because he's just standing in the thing. Like, just thinking of it from her point of view, and she calls Lori right away because she's upset. It's very funny. The whole scene, it's pretty funny to me.
Okay, cool. I was intrigued to see what you would have thought of it.
What are your thoughts exactly?
I like it. It's I will say I think it's probably my least liked kill. I mean, I guess I ended up liking it afterwards when he like goes behind her and chokes her with the phone wire, but I feel like it's just a tad bit out of place. But I think to an extent, I guess it was kind of cool to see that because of the fact that we get Michael in the beginning where we saw him as the young boy, right, in the scene, and we actually got to see his face. We get at the end where Laurie rips off his face, and we see he's only 21. He's kind of, his face kind of looked a little deformed, kind of, but he still looks young, and he's kind of shocked when she pulls off the mask. And I like to think that him doing the ghost thing was just him still kind of having a little bit of that inner kid in him, but also that he's, while he's this crazy serial killer, he's still like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel that the ghost thing kind of goes into just Loomis believing that Michael Myers is pure evil. Like he's an entity. He's not necessarily human. He's just straight evil. And he could, be a ghost. And how he, looks to see Michael is lying on the ground at the end of the movie and he's gone. Like he's just evil. He can't be killed. And he was been shot, 6 times. And now all of a sudden he's gone. And I feel like it kind of feeds into that as well. But I know for sure, like, it's just a playful thing thrown in the movie. It's not anything more into it. Because when reading upon the movie, in one of the interviews that John Carpenter did, he mentioned that he didn't want people to read into it any more than it needed to be. It was just a crazy guy going around killing people. You didn't want all the other critics trying to make things up that weren't necessarily intended for the movie.
And I'll go ahead and jump to this. This was the second thing I want to bring up because you started it. The final scene where he gets shot 6 times. I'll go ahead and say this. I don't like the fact that he was shot those 6 times after already being stabbed and all that other kind of stuff with the actual knife at that point. And he just if he gets up so quickly from the ground. I don't like that at all. At this point, this is in 1978. It's very I feel like this movie goes for a lot of realism in the sense that you have this guy that escapes, but he's kind of a normal person. He doesn't look too fictional, like he's Jason coming out of Camp Crystal Lake. He doesn't look like he's Freddy in your dreams, where he looked like those characters look fake. Michael Myers looks like a normal dude. It's something that this could potentially happen in real life. And a lot of the movie has a lot of realism that, hey, this is scary because this could actually happen to you in real life. The man got shot 6 times. This wasn't like 2003, 2004. So at that point, 50 Cent got shot 9 times. So it would be believable if Michael had gotten shot 6 times and he walked away. But at this point, we did not have the research and knowledge of 50 Cent's shooting. So I cannot believe in 1978, if I was watching this in the movie, that he was shot 6 times and there wasn't more pain there. He wasn't laying on the ground with blood coming out. He wasn't. I felt like it's okay if you want him to walk away, but I feel like he needed to have laid there quicker, because essentially the scene cuts to Loomis and Laurie. They say that thing about him being the boogeyman and all that stuff, and Loomis looks out the window and he's gone, and then it cuts to the music and supposed to be like, oh, he could be anywhere. Where is he? And then at the same point, I'm thinking of it because this is the first movie. We don't know what happens. you got shot 6 times. Like, you're more than likely going to bleed out. So you have to get some type of medical attention and help. Who, like, you got to be helped somehow. Like, where is he going to go? He can't go into a hospital. I don't know.
But that's the thing. I think, you know, if you're going through this whole movie believing that Michael is just a normal man and just breaking out of the psychiatric and just wanting to kill people. Yeah, I get that. But then you get to the end and he's gone, like, and then it just kind of makes you start wondering, what exactly is Michael? Did he really just walk up and get away? Can he be killed at all? You know, those kinds of things. He had been stabbed. He had been, you know, those different things where we believe he's dead. Or, you know, the characters think that he's dead. And then he gets up and just goes about like normal. Like, can this man be injured? Is he even a man at all? You know, those things just start to factor in, and that's what I enjoy about it, is that it leaves it open for your interpretation, not necessarily for a sequel, because that thing wasn't going on in the 70s where they were just like setting up for a sequel like that. It just left it open for you, like, what happened to him? Is he really this evil ghost thing? Is he alive? Like, what's gonna happen next? Those kinds of things.
But see, I felt like, and this is like, I didn't do any like additional research on this of exactly if this was factual, but when I think about when Laurie takes his mask off and we see Michael, he looks like a regular person. So it's, in my opinion, I felt like that scene was there so that way the viewer would realize that, like, yo, this is a real, like, yes, he's this crazy person, but he's a real man that's doing these killings and stuff. Because the way I've always looked at the first Halloween is that, especially in the 70s, where, like we said, people were leaving their doors unlocked and like all this kind of stuff, is like, if you watch Halloween, you come out of it thinking all this crazy stuff that happened could potentially happen in my neighborhood. There could be a crazy man that is running around, that's a normal human being, that's killing people, you know? And I guess during that time, that's where the world was kind of learning about serial killers a little bit more with like your Jeffrey Dahmers and your, what's that other boy's name? The one with the unibrow. The one that had all them Netflix specials that Zac Efron was
Ted
played.
Bundy.
Ted Bundy. Like, you had all these kind of people that, I don't think it was that early, but around that time and in the 80s and stuff, were gaining notoriety. So it's like, I felt like Halloween was set up for that. You know, I'd be terrified. It's like, yeah, it is possible that some guy that went crazy as a child and he broke out and we should be scared. But when you say that, oh, he got stabbed twice, he got shot 6 times and fell from a balcony after getting shot, and he fell on his back, and he just gets up within 30 seconds, a minute, it's not believable. Not believable at all.
I mean, it's the boogeyman, man. I honestly, like, you know, they refer to him as the boogeyman most of the movie, and I feel like if you were to go to watch that in theaters in the 70s, and then it kind of leaves it open, like, oh, this guy's still around, he could possibly come into your neighborhoods, like, this could happen to you, there's no way of stopping this boogeyman, so good luck, I hope this scares you, that kind of thing, you know? I just feel like that's what the intended purpose is to leave that open and for people to feel scared and for people to be scared that this thing could come into their, and that kind of realness kind of, you know what I mean? It's very debatable as to what happened at the end and why it happened and where he gone, but you know, it's how I took it is it was very scary because he could possibly come into and affect me the same way that he did Laurie. This could happen to me, and I do get that part.
I guess you're right. I still don't like the ending. I still feel like there should have been a little more time with him getting up, or either he shouldn't have. I feel like he shouldn't have got up at all. I think this would have been the way I would have done it if I wrote the story. Is Loomis would have looked outside. Michael still would have been laying on the ground. Loomis tells Laurie something along the lines of like, "Come on, let's get out of here." And then when they walk downstairs, they go outside the house, and then Michael's gone. and then you play the music. You have the different scenes that he was at, giving that kind of notion of he could be anywhere, and you do it where it makes sense, where it's like, oh, he was on the ground for a while because it took them a while to make it downstairs because they're all kind of like injured and like tired and stuff. So he had time to, if he was still alive, recover and leave. That's the way I would have done it rather than instantly.
Okay, well, let me add in this because I had forgot I had read up upon this. So the actor that played Loomis, Donald Pleasance, actually was instructed to look like he was supposed to be surprised when he saw that Michael wasn't lying there anymore. But the actor came in and said, it doesn't Loomis believe that he's evil. He knows this guy is evil the whole time, that he's not necessarily a man, but something else. And he presented the idea that he should look, more concerned, like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. I knew he wasn't going to be there. That kind of feeling. So it feeds, more into that boogeyman, like this thing isn't man and it's going to come back and those kinds of things,
Okay, I mean, that makes more sense, and that does a little bit more explaining to it. I may not still agree with it, but I guess with that explanation, it makes it a little bit better for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like it. I love the ending. That's the one part I do disagree with you, but I enjoyed it. I got that scary feeling, like I had mentioned. One thing I do want to bring up and ask you, what necessarily was your favorite kill in this movie? Because there was only seven, and I'll name them all for you and for the listeners. It's Judith Myers at the beginning. It's the truck driver that was lying in the patch of grass. The two dogs are encountered when I was researching this. Linda, Bob, and N.
I feel like it may be Bob, and that was because I don't know what it was, but I really enjoyed how Michael, he stuck him with the butcher knife and he stuck him to the wall. So he held him up, stabbed him, and he was just basically there, like, attached to the wall. And I mean, I guess that's not super realistic because, like, if you stabbed me and did it to a wall, my body weight may bring me down to the ground. But I just really enjoyed that kill a lot for some reason. And then the Michael's expression after he's done the kill, because you can see that Bob's neck and his head is like drooped. And if you look at Michael's head, he's like kind of mimicking Bob a little bit. He's like turning his head to the side, trying to kind of drop it the same way that Bob's was. And I kind of found that a little funny, but also just in a way, Michael admiring his work.
Yeah, I definitely agreed that was gonna be my pick. But I'm gonna switch it up. I'm not gonna do the same pick and talk about it even more. I'm gonna have to go with Judith. That you mentioned it earlier. Seeing that opening sequence of that first person view and getting that feeling of having a mask on and that camera work, it's very scary being in those shoes, being in the shoes of Michael and seeing someone being killed like you're actually doing it. And I enjoy that aspect so much that, having the audience be put into this killer's shoes and seeing the work that he's doing, it's unique, it's original, it's something different in my opinion. You don't get too much of that in horror films, and you don't get necessarily be put in that mind of the killer. You're just kind of going and seeing what the killer is doing,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's why I think first person is good for horror movies. I off the top of my head, I can't think of too many others that do it. It's not a horror film, but I know the movie, I believe it's Rampage, which is just a movie about a guy who goes crazy and he goes and kills people. And I want to say there's some kill scenes in there where it goes first person, and you're basically put into his eyes as he's just running rampant on the town killing people. I remember seeing that many years ago and thinking that, something about being in first person is just more impactful. So I totally agree.
Yeah, every time I think of first person, I think of Doom. Have you seen that one? The movie?
Oh, yeah.
How they put it, like how the video game was. I enjoy that. There's something about that just stuck with me from that movie. But Yeah, I enjoy this opening sequence. That killing was probably my second favorite after Bob's.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I said everything that I needed to. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Any other scenes, fun facts, something you like, something you didn't like?
I think I have some extra fun facts here. If you want me to list off a couple of those?
Yeah, lay it on for the people.
All right, all right. So let's get into the mask. I wanted to touch on that. So the original mask was 75 Captain Kirk mask, and they got that for $1. So what they did was take off the eyebrows and the sideburns, and they painted the face white. They hairsprayed the hair brown, and the eyes were opened up a bit more, and that's where we get the Michael Myers mask. And that was actually in the running with another mask, and that was just a clown mask with red hair, and that was just more of a homage to the young Michael killing of his sister, where he puts on the clown mask. And they were either going to go with that or this one, and the cast and crew found that this Michael Myers mask was a lot more expressionless and a lot more horrifying than just a clown mask.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's crazy to me that that's the whole story kind of behind the mask, but I feel like the expressionless is perfect with it because you never, as the victims and the people who encounter Michael, they never really know what he's thinking at that moment because the mask, if he was to smile, you wouldn't know if it's under the mask. If he was to frown, cry, you just don't know. So all around perfect mask, super iconic. I mean, we see it everywhere.
Yeah, Michael Myers is known for a reason. It's always going to be that mask. You're always going to see kids being scared of it. Parents scaring their kids with it. It's gonna be around for years, and I love it. It's the greatest mask, in my opinion, the greatest mask of any horror icon. But of course, other people have their opinions.
Yes. I did want to just throw in these because I had almost forgot. Um, Video games. Halloween actually became a video game on the Atari 2600, and that was in 1983. It was 5 years after the first movie, and it's a pretty basic game. Um, Essentially, what it is you're a babysitter, and you have to save the children as the serial killer runs around and tries to get you. Um, I've seen a little bit of gameplay. There's like multiple little doors and stuff. It's all, of course, from the Atari, so it's all 8-bit style graphics. No names are used in the film, so like the children aren't named. They're not based off the teenage characters or anything. But it's pretty interesting, and also the story behind it as well. It's a very, very hard to find game for my fellow collectors. Me and Jose did a little search, and there is not a single official copy currently on eBay. There's 2 reproduction copies. The cheapest of the repo copies is going for a little over $100. There is one copy all the way from our great friends who brought us Bratsworth, Germany, for over $380. So if you got 380 of them things, you can go ahead and buy you Halloween on the Atari 2600 complete in box from Germany. Pretty crazy. What do you think about that?
It's extreme. It's a bit much for me, especially if it's just a redone copy. What do they call it? What would you call it?
Reproduction.
Reproduction copy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If I were that big of a Halloween and Michael Myers fan, I would go all out for it, but I'm not. And it's very rare you find those people. But I really do hope that there are actual copies being taken care of and put out and resold to other people who care. And instead of these resellers selling produced copies for $400, I mean that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and there was some interesting things about it. Obviously, I haven't seen any pictures just because of how rare it is, but apparently the production of the game was like pretty low budget, and it got to the point where the actual labels, if anyone has seen any Atari cartridges from back in the day, There was like an actual label that's like a kind of like a cardboard paper label, and it would be glued to the actual cartridge, kind of similar to like NES and Super Nintendo. But for the I guess I don't know if they couldn't afford some of them or what it may have been, but some copies just have a sticker with Sharpie or like marker written on it that just were say Halloween, that was done by the uh producers of the game, which I find pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it sounds more intentional because of budget reasons, but I enjoyed that fact. You know, something different, a horror movie, making it more obscure. Like you want more of this. It's not necessarily done all out, and that you know, it feels like you're playing a homemade video game by somebody who actually cares about the movie. You know, that little thing. Um, so I don't know. It's just I think $400 is definitely too much, but maybe playing that game when it first came out, I definitely would have been excited.
Yes, and since then, it looks like we've seen Michael Myers in about three other ones. I'll kind of gloss over these because they don't seem as interesting. There was a PC game called Terror Drome Rise of the Boogeyman that was a fan made fighting game similar to the likes of Mortal Kombat. And it featured some of your favorite horror villains of all time. So you could play as Michael Myers, Candyman, Chucky, Ghostface, and Leatherface, and many others.
Oh man, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to get my hands on that. That sounds pretty fun. Playing Candyman, that would be intense.
Yeah, it's a fan made game, so it looks like you can pretty much just download it. I don't know if it costs money or anything, but that's very cool. I don't have a release date, but there's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can look up about that. Fast forwarding to about 2013, maybe 2014. I had no idea of this, but Michael Myers was actually featured in the Onslaught DLC for Call of Duty Ghost on the 360, Xbox One, PS3, PS4, and PC. Apparently, I guess there was some mode where there was like a fog map, and you could be Michael Myers himself, obviously in like a first person kind of view. And he had this giant axe, and you could run around and melee people and kill them. And whenever you got to, I guess, be him, or there was some type of power up that you would get called Maniac, you could upgrade your appearance, strength, and skills. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I never knew this because my Call of Duty playing was years before this, but that's kind of interesting that Call of Duty would bring him in there. I know that they had done George A. Romero back on Black Ops Zombies, so I'm not. I guess I'm not surprised that they brought him in for Ghost.
Dude, I remember this actually. I was playing Ghost quite often, and then they released this. It's basically free for all, and at a certain point, you get that power up, and yeah, you just go around running as Michael Myers, axing people, and the music would come on and everything. It would be pretty intense seeing somebody run at you as Michael Myers, and you're just running around with a Call of Duty gun. It was a fun little time playing that with my friends.
Ah, see, I never knew that. That's cool. That's cool. Um, the last thing that I'm going to talk about here is a little bit more modern. This is on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. And because of backwards compatibility, you'll be able to play these on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Is Dead by Daylight. Now, Dead by Daylight is essentially a game where I guess there's four survivors, and they work together to fix some generators to escape before the killer can pick all of them off. You either play as the survivor or the killer, and there's some DLC called the Shape DLC, which Michael is referred to a few times in the original Halloween film. And yeah, it includes Michael Myers. From looking at some images here, they actually recreated the house that Laurie, Tommy, and Lindsay are in, and Michael gets shot from and everything. So that's actually really cool. So they kind of recreated Haddonfield. So I'd be interested to play this. I've never played Dead by Daylight. So if anyone listening to this has, let us know how it is.
Yeah, we could even get a game going. Isn't it just like a group of 8 people or something like that? We could all be in a party and go around killing each other or something.
I would enjoy that. That'd be fun. So let us know about that. I'd be really interested that because looking at some screenshots here, it actually looks like really really cool. So,
Hey, it's actually a pretty fun game, to be honest. I haven't played as with the Michael Myers DLC or whatever, but yeah, you just go around with the different generators. You get all scared, and if you are lucky enough to have the chance to play as like the killer, that's pretty intense too. Like there's different things you can do with certain, and they have like different skins, like classes, where you can do different things as different people. Um, so it's pretty cool. It's a pretty fun game.
okay, nice, nice. We'll have to get to that. So that's me. I'm all out of fun facts.
Yeah, I am too. So with that being said, how many pints of blood are you gonna give the movie?
Oh, I'm giving it like a 9.5, 10 out of 10. It's a classic. I'll give it 9.5. No, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. I'll give it 10 out of 10.
Okay, let me ask you why so hesitant giving it a 10 though? Why wasn't that the first your first thought?
I just thought about it because of maybe some of the things that I had said before that maybe I didn't like, but I was looking at this from a little bit of a modern perspective. So when I take myself back and I imagine 1978 Deonte and not 2020 Deonte, a lot of those criticisms that I have wouldn't have been there. So I can't really factor those into the actual score when watching the movie. So I will have to go ahead and give it a 10 out of 10. It is an easy all-time classic and one that has become a staple for people to follow. And when they're writing the script, it's become popular in pop culture, in, I mean, horror, in, I mean, just video game and everything. So it has to be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's hard not to give this a 10 out of 10. Just looking, even if you are watching it nowadays for the first time, it's very hard not to be scared by this film. In my opinion, like it's got the score, it's got that creepy, horror icon. It's got that teen who's being chased and she looks very scared. I mean, there are some acting issues. There are some, certain shots that didn't necessarily hit that 100% mark, but I feel like it's scary overall with the flaws that it has. Overall, it scares me and it makes it a perfect horror film.
Yep. I'm pretty sure most of our listeners will agree.
Oh, for sure. Is there anything else you want to add on to this, sir?
I do not. I just want to thank everybody. I hope that they enjoyed this episode. I hope they enjoyed the new format. So please leave a review through iTunes. Comment, send us messages through our social media platforms. Let us know what you think of this episode. And do you want to go ahead? Do you want to hint or maybe announce what we're doing for episode 2?
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and start doing that. I would love to announce it. So, episode 2 drops next Friday. We're doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I'm pumped for it, man. I'm pumped for it. I'll have to go back and drop my Comic-Con 2015 picture, 2016 picture. I took a picture with the Killer Clowns.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
I have to drop that. But fun fact, I had no idea they were from the movie. I just thought they were clowns.
There we go. Have you seen this movie before?
I actually have not. I've seen like maybe a couple little small clips from like horror Twitter pages. This is out of, I know which the listeners don't know yet, but all the movies that we decided to do for season 1, this is the only one I have not seen.
Okay. I'm really excited, man. I'm so excited. This movie, I feel though, is probably my least liked one of the list we have. So I'm really curious to give it a few watches and see what my opinions come out of it.
Yes, I know a lot of people think it's a classic, so it was one of the ones I suggested that we do just because I knew I hadn't seen it, and I feel like it's about time, since I have this horror podcast, might as well do it and review it. So that'll be next week. Before we hop out of here, I do want to just wish everyone to have a happy Halloween once again. Be safe. Tomorrow, October 31st, is the last day to purchase your shirt, so they will come down on November 1st, so please get to that. They are $18 plus shipping. And yeah, thanks a lot. Follow us on social media at The Gruesome Task on Twitter, at Gruesome Task Podcast on Instagram. And with that, folks, how many pints of blood are you drinking?